Okay, we're on the air.
Well, the reason that I wanted to start this podcast interview is because every time you start talking in the kitchen, it's so exciting that I think that everybody should hear about this. Everybody should hear what you have to say. So yesterday you were talking about, it's all so over my head. You were talking about the Bose-Einstein Condensates,
Right.
And light.
Yeah.
Can you just jump in with that, or should I form more questions?
Well, that's what I talked about in yesterday's podcast. The recent article that there's now a theoretical model to back up the observational data that shows that light does form Bose-Einstein condensates. To me, the critical piece of this is that in our clinical theory of everything, that entirely fits what appears, my best guess, what appears to be happening with consciousness is that it is essentially a Bose-Einstein condensate of light. That when we see light. Now, that light that we see, the light of consciousness, is not visible to technical observation, to technical instrumentation. It's dark to the scientist in the laboratory trying to look at it inside someone else's head, right? Because consciousness is a functionality within that coherence zone of the biological entity, harboring the spiritual consciousness, the spiritual body that has this consciousness function. It appears dark. The light of consciousness appears dark to science at our current level of science. But if we expand science to include not only technical, electronic, externalized instrumentation, but the instrumentation inherent in the biology itself, our own consciousness, then we see consciousness every time we open our eyes. And when we close our eyes, we see it if we're visualizing, if we're imaging. So,
how about if we have a signal where I have a question? Or do you want to just keep going on with your thought?
Just bug me. Ask a question. Jump in.
Okay. So, the first question that comes to my mind is...
Look at the camera.
Oh.
It's at the top of your screen.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
there.
Now you're looking in my eyes as the avatar viewer. Now I see into your soul.
Thanks.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay.
Yes.
So, okay, a lot of questions coming up already. When you say a Bose-Einstein condensate, I have these kind of floating images of tubular structures that somehow contain memory, and I don't know how to connect these with...
The tubular structures are the scrolls, they're the memory, and we see that at different fractal levels. We see it in the microtubules with the OR model of memory and consciousness, which is a very nicely developed, very nicely...
Okay, way over my head already.
Yeah, but the point that's a footnote. That's a little thing with in blue ink, so people can click on it and go to a website and look it up and read about it. But it's a well developed model of memory that I include as my model of consciousness in the clinical theory of everything. So the microtubules are cylindrical in shape. They're hollow on the inside.
Okay.
And this OR model is a quantum model of memory, of consciousness.
Is there some way to relate these microtubules of consciousness, these cylinders filled with light and consciousness that looks dark somehow to our scientific methods. I'm assuming you're talking about some kind of way to measure with a microscope or something. Is that what you mean by scientific?
Yeah, if you had like the perfect microscope, this is now a thought experiment, right? It's like Einstein's approach, a thought experiment. If we have the perfect microscope, and we can make ourselves really small with this perfect microscope, and we go inside the microtubule, we can see where each electron is spinning, where it's residing. And if the electron is here at point 0 versus here at point 1, we have this digital switching mechanism where the electron can be here or it can be here. Well, in fact,
I don't have you on my screen, so I'm not seeing any gesturing that you're making, which means that on a radio podcast, there's something lost.
Right.
Just feedback.
We have to make sure that the verbal expresses the imagery.
It's in your head.
The imagery is complete in the verbal. We have to think of it as if we think of it as an audio podcast, then the visual expression, the movement is all added and extra. But we have to think of that our avatar is listening in.
I'm still struggling with connecting these microtubules into the model of reality that I already know from studying science and hearing about other things, as far as like, we know electrons are spinning around a proton, there's a nucleus, there's something about phonons and photons that I don't quite understand, and that all of this is somehow housed together in a molecule, which is just a combination of all those elements, and then that's the building blocks for everything that we see. So how does the microtubule model fit around this model that I already know?
Okay.
Does it? Maybe it doesn't.
You have pieces of the model, and that's understandable. That's where everyone is going to be coming from.
Avatar here.
Yeah, that's where everyone is going to be coming from
right
in their first approach to a model. The model is global. It takes in all sizes, all perspectives.
You're talking about your clinical model.
The clinical theory of everything.
Theory of everything, right?
So we can approach it from any particular angle or perspective or size and just enter from that point. There is no one starting point. There's no perfect starting. Really, the perfect starting point, because it's a model that includes consciousness, and that's the point of it, is that it's a complete model. A model without consciousness is a model within our model that leaves out 70% of what exists in the universe, which is dark energy. What's that dark energy? It's consciousness. What do quantum physicists say appears to be the substrate of existence is consciousness. Everything is consciousness in its nature. Like I often will say, magnesium knows perfectly how to be magnesium. It doesn't forget. It has perfect magnesium consciousness. We have human consciousness. We look around the universe and say, I wonder if there's any other consciousness. And we're looking for human consciousness. And those who are empathic with their pet dog or cat know that creature has consciousness, because there's communication there.
Thanks for reminding me about that.
Sure. You're a little low on the screen. You want to be up at 2/3.
Yeah, I actually have to get going now.
Yeah. So we'll call that
a good start.
A day, and we'll continue on day 3.
Awesome. I'm enjoying
Maybe later today to be
let's do it
published
later today when I get back.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Bye.